So this is week 2 and we're looking at interpersonal effectiveness. And for today, for Thursday, we are looking at saying no. How do I say no? Getting past the guilt or shame when I say no. So without treating you as though you're stupid, I will just say that interpersonal effectiveness, interpersonal is basically between people, okay? Intra is within, but interpersonal is between people. So it's looking at your relationships and having effective relationships and relationships that are healthy for you. A lot of the difficulties that people who present with either borderline personality disorder or similar behaviours that are connected to borderline personality disorder have a problem with relationships. That's one of kind of like the key features of somebody with borderline personality disorder. However, I do also know that people with mental illnesses, whether it is anxiety, depression, eating disorder, manic depression, I don't care what it is, have problems with their interpersonal relationships. Either that was there beforehand, or it has come during the illness, or as a result of the illness, because of how isolated mental illness makes us. And so dealing with saying no, I made a video not so long ago looking at guilt and shame, and also looking at saying no. And it's something you need to practice. And this is a word that's kind of used in DBT a lot, this idea of practicing and rehearsing. And sorry, my cat just won't leave me alone. And this is a skill that you need to be made aware of and then be able to practice. And it can start really smally, and it can start with things you feel safe with. So I live with my folks. It's probably easier for me to begin practicing to say no with them, because I know that they're, not going to reject me or abandon me because of it. And then to reach that, out and out and out, until you do get to a point that, yeah, we all have to do things that we don't like. But it's also important that, for your own sanity and your own mental health, to be able to say, do you know what, I can't do that tonight, or I'm not going to be able to make that meeting because, do you know what, you don't even need to say because, you don't even need to justify why you can't do something. It will help in terms of communicating effectively, which is what we're looking at with interpersonal effectiveness. If you can communicate and verbalise why it is you're not going to be able to do X, Y and Z. So if that means cancelling on a friend or whatever, I would advise you to just pick up the phone or text or email and just say, do you know what, I'm not going to be able to make it to this appointment or to this meeting, because at the moment I'm having a really difficult time and I'm kind of exhausted and I need some space for myself. And like I said, you shouldn't have to give an explanation for everything that you say no to, but it will help you and it will allow those communication lines to be open. And I think that ability to be able to articulate why you can't do something or why you're saying no will help the guilt and will help the shame, I guess, of not being able to do everything, because it will make you feel better about yourself if you've been able to say why, rather than just kind of like, so there's the other road, isn't there, where you just like switch off your phone, don't communicate with anybody, don't respond to anything, which is, what I did when I was sick, when I was, at the worst with my anorexia and stuff. I locked myself away and I didn't deal with anything. I just shut the door and literally would not let anybody else in my room. I would literally barricade myself in. My phone wasn't on, I wouldn't take phone calls, I would not communicate, and I just deteriorated. And what had to change from that when I went into recovery was, yes, it's difficult to sometimes say what I'm feeling or what's going on, but that if I was going to say no to somebody, that I deserve to not feel guilty about that, and what can help me not feel guilty about that? Well, communicating effectively about why I can't do that. And it will make my relationships better, more effective, stronger, if I can open those communication lines and just say, look, I can't do this because of this. And again, it's going to take practice, and you're not always going to be able to deal with everything perfectly, but certainly looking at how you communicate is a really, really vital part of effective relationships, which ultimately will help you with your recovery, and actually not just help you with your recovery, but actually make you feel better about yourself, because you feel like shit when you shut the world out. You know, you shut it out and you feel crap for shutting it out, and that just makes you feel more crap, which makes you shut it out even more. So it is about just opening that door a little bit, and whatever way it is that you can communicate, whether it's writing a letter, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how you communicate, but the important thing is to communicate. And if you can't talk about what is going on, can you write about what's going on? If you can't write about what's going on, that's okay too. And you can just say, you know, this is really difficult for me at the moment, and that doesn't mean you know how or why or what is behind that, but I feel like a broken record. Opening the lines of communication. Communication is key, and I never realised how important it was until I did the DBT program that I did, until I went into recovery, in that, you know, I deserve to know where I stand, and the people in my life who love me and care for me deserve to know where I stand. And by shutting people out, by not communicating effectively, you hurt yourself. You hurt yourself more, because it hurts your relationships more, and it hurts the person on the receiving end of it more. And so everybody just ends up feeling hurt, whereas if there can be some communication, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not even saying I'm a brilliant communicator all the time, and it's taken me a long time, and reading a lot of different books. And one I read actually just recently is called Stop Walking on Eggshells, and it's concerning communicating effectively with people with borderline personality disorder. And so it's actually for people who interface, whether that's personally or professionally, with people with borderline personality disorder or characteristics of borderline personality disorder. And it really did act as a kind of reassurance that by me learning to communicate effectively, it's gonna help the person who's, you know, I'm trying to communicate effectively with as well. So it works both ways. And quite often what you will find is, and this doesn't have to be somebody who's poorly or has mental health issues, that if you can communicate more effectively, in response, those people will communicate more effectively back with you. And so I was at home when I was poorly, and through hospitalizations, and especially, I remember especially one, the last one actually in 2005, I spent some time with the therapists and with the nursing staff, writing down and explaining why my dad's behaviour was destructive to me and painful to me. And I thought about it, and I wrote it out, and I sat down, and, you know, and I said, can you not interrupt me while I say this? It's going to be very difficult for me to say, and what I'd like to do then after is perhaps open those lines of communication. And I read what I was finding particularly difficult about my father's behaviour, and that in turn, you know, it opened those lines up, and he could respond to that. And I've had problems, you know, with my relationship with my father for a really long time. I love him to pieces, he loves me to pieces, that's not about it, but we kind of, there's always been this friction. And by doing that, our relationship is like, I can't even begin to describe how much better it is, because I took that time to think about what was difficult for me, communicate that to him, he could communicate back, and then from that point onwards, and it wasn't always easy, we were able to interact and communicate. I'm gonna leave this here because I'm getting pins and needles from sitting, and I've got a pussycat who is just desperate for some attention. So I'm gonna go, guys, and I really hope that's been of some use. And any feedback you can give, you can write to me at the personal channel, and I will respond to it. You can just address it to me through the channel, and I look forward to hearing from some of you guys again. Okay, bye.